9.4 Blood. After you're done studying, go back to the objectives and make sure that you're covering every part of this lesson. Blood. Blood is divided into 4 structures. The first one is the plasma, and then the red and white blood cells, and then finally the platelets. So remember, plasma, platelets, red and white blood cells. So here are the components of the blood. First, the red blood cells. Remember, we talked about them before. We said that they contain hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is made of protein and iron, and it's mainly to carry oxygen and transport it. So it's responsible for the transportation of oxygen all over the body. Red blood cells don't have nuclei in order to give more space for the carrying of the oxygen and its transportation. So that's why they do not divide. They are made in the bone marrow. And also they have this bioconcave shape that looks like a disc in order to give it more surface area for oxygen carrying and transportation. Here is the white blood cell. The white blood cell is the opposite. It's responsible for another function, and that's why it has a different shape to help it with this function. It has a big nucleus with a very unique shape. Why? Because it makes the antibodies that help defend our body. Therefore, it has a lot of ribosomes, and it has a nucleus in order to give the order for these ribosomes to make the proteins which are the antibodies. So that's why it must have a nucleus that contains the DNA for this process. It has a lot of ribosomes, and it is bigger in size, a little bit bigger in size, in order to be capable of phagocytosis, and we will learn about phagocytosis later in this lesson. Platelets. Platelets also are fragments of cells, and they are responsible for blood clotting, which means they stop the bleeding, and also they don't have a nucleus, so again they are made in the bone marrow. Let's take a deeper look at the red and white blood cells in comparison. First, passing through vessels. Red blood cells, they are very small in size, which enables them to pass through even the tiniest capillaries in order to be close to every body cell, to help with the exchange, to help with the release of oxygen to the cells in order to do their aerobic respiration. While white blood cells, they are flexible, so they can squeeze through those very small blood capillaries. Nucleus, as we agreed before, red blood cells don't have nucleus to give more space for hemoglobin in order to be able to do their function, which is the transport of oxygen. Here we have a very large nucleus also to do their function, which is the making of antibodies, which needs the DNA to encode for those antibodies. Antibodies are proteins. So also that's why they contain a lot of ribosomes. Components of the cells. Here we have no mitochondria. We are missing some of the organelles, of course, because we don't have a nucleus to give orders for those organelles to work. But we have hemoglobin. This is the main thing we have, that's made of protein and iron. White blood cells, they produce antibodies to destroy pathogens, so they have a lot of ribosomes. Function. Hemoglobin carries oxygen, and iron combines with the oxygen to make oxyhemoglobin. During aerobic respiration, all the cells of the body use up the oxygen they have. So when a red blood cell passes containing its oxyhemoglobin, it releases the oxygen where there is low oxygen, because oxygen passes from high to low concentration. So when the cell has used all of its oxygen content, now the red blood cell has higher concentration of oxygen, so the oxygen will flow from the red blood cell into the cell in need of oxygen. while in the white blood cells, the function is destroying the microorganisms causing diseases, which are the pathogens, by two ways, either by engulfing them by phagocytosis or by the production of antibodies. The shape, here we need to concentrate on the shape of the red blood cell because it's very unique. It's a bioconcave disc. Why? Because it's pinched from the middle and it has high edges to increase the surface area of the carrying and the transport of oxygen compared to its volume. If with the same volume the cell was flat, it could have carried less oxygen and less hemoglobin. Now, how do white blood cells do phagocytosis? The cell membrane makes extensions called pseudopodia. Here you go. And then those extensions close, creating a vesicle. What do we call this vesicle? We call it the phagosome. And then this phagosome connects with a lysosome from the cell. Here we go. Lysosomes are the destroyers or the garbage collectors of any cell. So they contain enzymes that can digest any foreign body or anything that the cell wants to destroy. Digest means break down. Then the content of this lysosome, which are enzymes that can break down any foreign body, will then be poured into the phagosome and digest all of the captured microorganism. So now I have destroyed microorganism, which is now a waste into my phagosome. I need to excrete it. So the cell will then I'll put this phagosome near to the edge, near to the cell membrane, and open an exit and release these digested particles or products outside of the cell. So this is how phagocytosis works. Now, plasma and platelets, the two P's. Plasma, mostly made of water, it's responsible for the transport of glucose, amino acids, carbon dioxide, mineral ions. So everything is dissolved in the plasma. Also the hormones and the urea, everything is dissolved into the plasma. Okay, so here you go. These are the components of the blood. This is a white blood cell. These are red blood cells. This is the plasma, the liquid in the middle, and these are the platelets. Now the platelets, again, they don't have nuclei. They are made in the bone marrow. They start the clotting. So how does the clotting work? Here we go. Blood vessels, if they get damaged, the blood contacts new surfaces that they are not supposed to contact, like air, for example. So when the blood senses that there is a change in its environment that it's not used to, two things happen at the same time. Platelets become activated and there is a chain reaction in the body that starts the blood clotting factors. So both of them will work together, blood clotting factors and platelets. Platelets, when they become activated, they stick together and they make a surface, okay? And then when the blood clotting factors work together, they change the fibrinogen, which is usually soluble in the blood plasma, into fibrin. Fibrin, it's like fibers or sticks that now are insoluble and they appear. So they form with the platelets a barrier. They stop the bleeding. This is called the blood clot. Okay? So this is how blood clotting works. Now let's answer some questions. The diagrams show some of the components of the blood of a mammal. Which component causes the blood to start clotting? So it is the fragments of cells, which is the platelets. What is the fluid in the blood called? The fluid is the plasma. So the diagram shows human blood cells as seen under the microscope. What is the function of cell X? Let's look. What is cell X? Cell X is a white blood cell. So white blood cells, do they carry glucose? No, glucose is dissolved in the plasma. Carry oxygen or transport oxygen? No, oxygen is transported by the red blood cells. So do they make blood clot? No, this is the job of platelets to defend us against disease, which is the job of the white blood cell. Let's take a look at paper 3 questions. When the heart beats, it pumps blood around the body. Figure 2.2 shows the components of the blood as seen through a light microscope. Name the components labeled F, G, and H. So, F, what is F? F is the red blood cell, G is the white blood cell, and H, it's the clear liquid, which is plasma. Now state one function of each component. So F again is the red blood cell, transports oxygen. Transport is important when he's asking you about the function. You have to mention the word transports, because if it carries oxygen but it does not transport it, it's not doing a function. So carrying the oxygen is how it does the work, but the work itself is the transport. So please make sure that you mention the word transport in your answer. And white blood cells, which is G, antibodies formation, phagocytosis, killing bacteria or pathogens. AW means any words. So any wording will be accepted if it is explaining the function correctly. And then H, which is the plasma. The function here is transport of blood cells, soluble nutrients, hormones, carbon dioxide, plasma, protein, everything that the plasma makes. So this is the mark scheme. So when he says any wording, this doesn't mean that you write anything. The information must be right. Functions must match the component. So please make sure that when you write a component, the function must be matching the component. Okay, thank you, and I hope this video helps you study.